Welcome to the Soccer Tavern, where we're discussing the history, culture, and philosophy of the beautiful game. My name is Dave, and in this video we're talking about West Ham United Football Club's history. Pull up a seat and let's start the discussion. West Ham is located in the eastern part of the city of London, though not quite as east as it used to be, which we'll talk about later in the video. London is located in the southern central part of England in the United Kingdom. The club currently play in the Premier League, and its home ground is called the London Stadium, which opened in 2012 for the Olympics, but West Ham moved in 2016. The stadium holds about 57,000 people. West Ham's former stadium was a few miles further east and was called the Bowling Ground, but it was more commonly known as Upton Park, named after the surrounding area. That held about 35,000 people. The club traces its origin back to 1895. At that time, Arnold Hills, who was the managing director for the Thames Ironworks and Shipbuilding Company, was persuaded to start a soccer club. He was persuaded by one of his foremen named Dave Taylor, who was also a local soccer referee. In June of 1895, the Thames Ironworks Football Club was formally announced in the company's newspaper. The club played matches in different competitions over a 5-year period, but were finally elected to a formal league, the Southern League, in 1900. Coupled with this move to the Southern League, the club was officially incorporated on July 5, 1900. With the incorporation, the club changed its colors from all blue to their well-known colors of claret and blue. Additionally, with the incorporation of the club as its own company came a name change to West Ham United Football Club after the county borough where the club played. The club has been West Ham United FC ever since. West Ham have 3 nicknames: the Irons, the Hammers, and the Academy of Football. The Irons and Hammers nicknames both derive from the club's association with the Thames Ironworks and Shipbuilding Company. Irons and hammers were tools or materials used by employees in shipbuilding and carried over to the club as nicknames. Additionally, to dispel any confusion, the Hammers nickname has nothing to do with the club having ham in its name. That's merely a coincidence. The Academy of Football nickname is more of a club motto. It came about in the 1950s when the club made a commitment to youth development. West Ham had 3 influential players on the 1966 World Cup winning England squad. Fans claim, often partially joking but kind of not joking, that the club won the World Cup. West Ham and their fans are fiercely proud of their commitment to youth development and view the academy as one of the best in the world. Hence the Academy of Football nickname, as it slightly implies that it is the best academy for the sport in the world. The current crest was chosen from a fan vote in 2014. The crest is a claret shield outlined in blue, which are the club's main colors. At the top of the crest is the club's name. The middle of the shield depicts 2 crossed hammers representing the tools used by the club's founding players in the local shipyard. A crest with crossed hammers was first recorded to have been worn by the club in the 1923 FA Cup final, so this harkens back almost 100 years. Finally, the City of London, where the club is located, is at the bottom. One more point of note is that crests used before the current crest often included a castle in the background behind 2 crossed hammers. The castle was the Boleyn Castle. That was a local name for the Green Street house, as it was believed Anne Boleyn, Queen of England in the 16th century, owned or at least lived in the house. The dates of the house being built and her death don't really add up, so it's unlikely she ever lived in the building. But this video is about West Ham, not the monarchy, so let's not go down that rabbit hole. The Boleyn Castle stood next to the ground where West Ham's old stadium was located until the castle was demolished in 1955. This is why West Ham's old stadium was named the Boleyn Ground. Let's discuss 3 important events in West Ham's history now. On May 2, 1964, West Ham United won their first major trophy as the Hammers beat Preston North End 3-2 in the FA Cup final at Wembley Stadium in London. West Ham trailed twice in the match, going down 1-0 and then 2-1, but scored equalizing goals each time. With time winding down, Jeff Hurst beat several Preston defenders and found Peter Brabrook out wide in the 90th minute. Brabrook sent in a cross that Ronnie Boyce met with his head and nodded home a last-minute game-winning goal for the club's first major piece of silverware. The Hammers followed that first major trophy by winning its second only a year later. On May 19, 1965, the club met TSV Munich 1860 in the European Cup Winners' Cup final at Wembley. 100,000 people witnessed the club win its first and so far only major European trophy. The match was described as a magnificent game with beautiful and flowing play from both sides. West Ham prevailed through Alan Sealey's 2 second-half goals in a 3-minute span. The last event I want to talk about is one that occurred off the pitch. On March 22, 2013, West Ham United beat out other London soccer clubs including Tottenham Hotspur and Leyton Orient to secure a 99-year lease for the London Olympic Stadium. The stadium was built for the 2012 Olympics and was located about 3.5 miles west of the bowling ground. The stadium's seating capacity was about 20,000 more than the bowling ground, and the West Ham owners promised that it would usher in a new era for the club. The Hammers moved into the new stadium for the 2016-17 season, but the move hasn't been nearly as positive as promised. Fans have struggled to adapt to the stadium being in a new area. 3.5 miles may not seem like a lot, but it can't really be understated that a club's home ground really has a place in the community. Many decades-old traditions for attending matches had to be completely changed, which supporters may have been okay with if the owners lived up to their promises. Sadly, the owners haven't, and West Ham are currently in a relegation fight this season. Tensions between supporters and ownership are close to an all-time high. A lot of this tension stems from the club being awarded the lease to the Olympic Stadium back in March of 2013. West Ham supporters sing the song "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles." It comes from a Broadway show called The Passing Show of 1918 and became popular in Britain in the 1920s. The origins of this song as it relates to West Ham is a bit convoluted. One story is that Will Murray, a West Ham Youth Academy player from the 1920s, was nicknamed Bubbles because he looked like a character from a soap advertisement. Reportedly, one of his teachers attended a match and sung the song to him during the match with other supporters catching on. Another story is that West Ham fans picked up the song from Swansea supporters. It is recorded that Swansea fans sung the song in their January 1921 FA Cup match against Bury. The Swans played West Ham in the FA Cup final the following season, and it's possible West Ham supporters picked up the song then, but couldn't really be confirmed. There are other stories as well, but none could be fully verified. What we do know is that "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles" was sung in air raid shelters during World War II in London. And the first record of West Ham supporters singing the song is from the 1940 Football League War Cup final when the Irons beat Blackburn. The song remained popular throughout the war, which helped the song become a tradition for West Ham supporters that still continues to today. Sir Bobby Moore captained West Ham for more than 10 years during his 16-year West Ham career. He also captained England to the World Cup title in 1966 and is widely regarded as one of the best defenders of all time. Pele stated Moore as the best defender he ever played against, and Sir Bobby won many awards throughout his career with the club. Sir Geoff Hurst won the 1966 World Cup with England. He scored a hat-trick in the final, the only male player ever to do that. His legendary performance in that World Cup somewhat overshadowed his exemplary West Ham career. He scored 249 goals for the club, helped the Hammers win their first FA Cup title, and was named Hammer of the Year 3 times during his tenure at the club. Trevor Booking spent 17 years at West Ham, winning 2 FA Cups with the team and 4 Hammer of the Year awards as an individual. He remained with the club as it was relegated and is widely considered as one of the top 5 players ever in the history of the club. He's still involved behind the scenes at the club, and in 2009, a stand at West Ham's old stadium, the Boleyn Ground, was named after him. Recent players like Rio Ferdinand, Michael Carrick, Joe Cole, Frank Lampard, and others have come through West Ham's famed youth academy and have went on to have great careers with other clubs. There are many other players from West Ham's glorious past, but in the essence of time, let's continue. The 3 managers I want to highlight here were 3 consecutive managers for the club from the 1950s through the 1980s. Ted Fenton became West Ham manager in 1950 and is credited with creating and building the Academy of Football at West Ham. He developed new tactics and philosophies of scouting, player development, recruiting, and training, resulting in a West Ham way of living and playing. He found and developed Sir Bobby Moore and Sir Geoff Hurst, in addition to many other great players for West Ham. Fenton led the club back to the top flight in 1958 after a 26-year absence, but he wasn't able to win any major trophies with the club. He was fired in 1961, with Ron Greenwood taking over the club. Ron Greenwood became West Ham manager in April 1961. He continued to develop the Academy of Football, which paid dividends for the club shortly into his tenure. He won the club's first ever major trophy, the 1964 FA Cup, and followed that up by winning the 1965 European Cup Winners' Cup that we talked about earlier. Greenwood continued to lead the club until 1974, when he moved into a general manager role and his assistant, John Lyall, took over as manager. Lyall was statistically the greatest manager in club history. He managed the club for a record 770 matches and won 2 FA Cups. He also led the club to its highest ever league position, 3rd in the First Division in the 1985-86 season. It wasn't all roses during his tenure, as the club suffered relegation in the late 1970s, but Lyall rebuilt the side, committed to playing the West Ham way of attacking attractive soccer, and built the club back into a very competitive and respectable squad for most of the 1980s. Unfortunately, the club suffered relegation in the 1988-89 season, and Lyall left the club. It wasn't the way he would have wanted to go out, but he is still regarded as one of the best managers in club history. The Hammers have 3 rivals, all based in London: Chelsea, Tottenham, and Millwall. Matches between Chelsea and West Ham are called District Line derbies in reference to the subway or tube route connecting the 2 London-based clubs. Both clubs have been around for a long time, but the rivalry really intensified during the hooligan days of the 1970s and 80s. Both clubs had some of the most notorious firms or gangs in the hooligan era, which helped make this a big rivalry. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Chelsea began poaching some of the best players from West Ham's famous youth academy, which helped seal this as a rivalry for West Ham supporters. West Ham's other Premier League London-based rival is Tottenham Hotspur. Both clubs were in similar competitive positions in the 1990s, which helped seal this rivalry. Now, Tottenham supporters these days may claim that West Ham isn't a real rival. In the 2000s, Tottenham has grown into a stable Premier League side that competes at the top end of the table, while West Ham have gone through periods of struggle, including a handful of relegations the past few decades. There's definitely still something for both sets of supporters in this rivalry, though. Like Chelsea, Spurs have recruited some of West Ham's best youth players. Additionally, West Ham won the rights to using the London Olympic Stadium at the expense of Tottenham, which forced Spurs to spend hundreds of millions of pounds building their own stadium. That created some tension between executives at both clubs, which adds to this rivalry. And that brings us to our last rival. Millwall is without question West Ham's biggest rival. Both clubs have their roots based in shipbuilding docks on either side of the River Thames. There was a natural rivalry between workers at competing companies, but in 1926, the Millwall shipyard dock workers broke a strike which increased the rift with West Ham supporters. Throughout the 30s and 40s, the rivalry cooled a bit as the clubs didn't play each other much. But by the 1960s, a culture of bragging and boasting about fighting developed among the supporters of both clubs. Mainly, this bragging came about from the glorification of gang culture in London at that time. This culture, combined with the hooliganism of the 1970s and 80s, made matches between these two clubs an excuse for mass brawling among supporters. It is still the most violent and toxic derby in London and possibly all of England, even though the clubs haven't played much in recent years. The rivalry is rooted in the working class communities of both sets of supporters and isn't going away anytime soon. The stats and records we're about to discuss are as of March 2018, which is when we are recording this video. The Irons have spent 60 seasons in the top flight in their history. The club has 4 major trophies, including 3 FA Cups and 1 European Cup Winners' Cup. The club's record first team appearance holder is Billy Bonds with 799 appearances. The club's record goal scorer is Vic Watson with 326 goals. The club's record transfer purchase was Marko Arnautovic from Stoke City FC on July 22, 2017 for about £20 million initially, plus a potential £5 million more in add-ons. And the club's record transfer sale was Dimitri Payet to Olympique Marseille in France on January 29, 2017 for about £25 million. And one last interesting fact about the club, West Ham United are the last team to have won the FA Cup from outside the top division. The Hammers beat Arsenal 1-0 in the final of the 1980 FA Cup while playing that season in the old second division, now known as the Championship. So, there you have it. A bit of history on West Ham United Football Club. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section below the video. Thanks for stopping by the Soccer Tavern. Hope to see you again soon. Cheers.